Hello, and welcome to Balderdash Academy. I'm your headmaster, Bob LeBlanc. Joining me is our faculty professor of STEAM, Nate Green.
Buenos dias!
Professor of Home Ec and Wellness, Marie Stewart Harmon.
Bonjour! That's yes-anding.
Coach of the Balderdash Academy Dashers, Coach Steve Corning.
It's game time. Let's go.
Whoop, whoop.
And our six-time reigning champion, Professor of English Language Arts, Molly McGill.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
Our visiting professor today is Dave Ciampa. Dave is a podcaster and co-host Ciampa and Klein, the Airwolf Years, and also make sure to check out Ciampa and Klein, the Knight Rider Years, available on whatever your favorite podcast service is. He co-hosts with Greg Klein. He's also the co-host of Call Me Cordelia with Kristen Ciampa, who does hold a relation as his wife. Links in the description to all of Dave's podcasts. Now, Dave has agreed to be the scorekeeper tonight while our faculty members compete for the coveted reigning champion banner. They will compete in a series of competitive comedy games, and at the end of each, Dave will assign points to the competitor he feels is most worthy. He is not looking for the right answer and will likely not find it unless we accidentally say it. He's looking for the best answer. He's looking for the answer that he likes best. The points are arbitrary and can be given to anyone for any reason. At the end of the night, the faculty member with the highest points total will be named the reigning champion. And our current reigning champion, defending her title, tied with Nate for the most wins, six-time reigning champion Molly McGill.
Oh, do you feel it? I feel it. It feels great. It feels good.
Too much.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. It's time for our first pop quiz. Our first pop quiz of the night is from the champion herself, Professor Molly McGill of English Language Arts. Champ, what do you have for us?
I like the sound of that. Champ. Hey, faculty. Lovely to see you all, and welcome, Visiting Professor. So great to have you here tonight. As you all know, we always kick this thing off with a word of the day. So I am going to give our faculty a word, Visiting Professor. You will listen, I will recap, and you will decide whose answer you want to award points to. Are we ready, faculty?
Yay.
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay,
Let's do this. Yeah.
A lot of nodding. Tonight's word is bibble. Tonight's word is bibble. Bibble. Bibble is tonight's word. Marie, what do you got?
It's a skill of its own. We all have missed sports recently, and the NBA is doing things again. That's really cool. But there's been this new YouTube movement with babies who are playing basketball, and when the babies are moving down the court, they are bibbling. It is a bibble. They are moving down the court. It's a baby dribble. They are bibbling down that court. It is babies dribbling basketballs.
Dribbling and drooling. Love it. Steve, what do you got?
Right.
Oh, honestly, I was going to go in a similar direction here. This is what I believe it is. This is when tourists come to Maine and they're having that classic Maine dinner, which is, a lobster and fixins, right? Now, with that lobster, they always give you that fancy Maine bib, right? But lobster is obviously famous for making you drool a bit of butter out of the side of your face. So dribbling some drool onto your bib is what I like to call a little bit of bibble.
Aha, lovely, lovely. Bob, what do you got for us?
So bibble is an ancient word, and it's actually the precursor to our babble. What bibbling is simply a non-consonant form of babbling. Okay, it's all vowels.
And sometimes why?
Exactly. So classic bibbling is,
All Excellent, thank you. And Nate, you wanna cap us off here? What does bibble mean?
It's actually a term of endearment that Mrs. J.R.R. Tolkien gave to her husband, Mr. J.R.R. Tolkien. And it's how he came up with the name Bilbo Baggins. And it was he was her little Bibble. And when they got into bed at night, they were like, "Oh, my little Bibble," and he's like,
And
"Bilbo,"
they
and then
bibbled
he
each other.
just ran off to war and wrote a book.
Wow.
Yes, that was definitely a good story. Okay, Dave, let's see what we got here. We have what they believe bibble means. We have Marie with a baby basketball down the court, a little bibble dribble. We have Steve's bib dribble from the drippings from a slurping a lobster. We have Bob's multiple vowel just gibberish. And we have Nate's lover's name and author inspiration. How do we want to score this?
Boy, so I'm gonna give Marie. So I have a lovely score system going on here that I've been working with.
Awesome.
It's highly convoluted, and it's what my co-host Greg and I used when we were rating episodes of Knight Rider. So I'm gonna give Marie a sleek leather jacket.
Ooh. That sounds
Which
nice.
is
Awesome.
which is the equivalent of about 300 points.
Wow.
Because the idea in my head, the idea of babies playing and doing anything will always bring a smile to my face. So I very much enjoyed that. Nate,
Thank
Nate, I'm going to give you a Michael Knight perm, which
That
is
sounds
about
even better.
which is the equivalent. It's 100 points because I'm a big fan of Tolkien, and that just feels like something that his wife would coin as a term for him. So I really appreciated that. And I'm also on the third book with my 10-year-old. We're reading the trilogy right now, Lord of the Rings. So
Nice.
it's always nice to see that. And I think that's where I'm going to score it. I'm gonna keep it with those two right
That's
there.
good.
Nice. That is
Thank
some
you.
wonderful scoring. I love that creativity there. Well, faculty, as always, you have not studied your vocab words, but I still love you. Just so you can move
Thanks.
on without complete embarrassment in your life, let me tell you what it means. Bibble means people that eat or drink noisily. So if you're, say, out at a restaurant and somebody in the table next to you is just kind of slurping and glurping away,
Okay.
little bit of bibble going on.
Slurping
Pretty
and
good.
glurping.
Thanks, Marie, for that little bit of bibble.
A misophonia trigger. That's fantastic. All right, so before we move on to the next game, I'm going to spin an opening question from the Balderdash randomizer. This is a game that we call 30 seconds or less. So the questions can be anything from random trivia to stuff about your career, anything. You have 30 seconds to answer. And our first question. Okay, this is definitely one for our coach to rally behind you with. Dave, what is your favorite sandwich and why?
That's a good question.
I'm very
My favorite sandwich. Okay, so really, what it boils down to is now I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that they consider a hot dog a sandwich. I'm in the group of that a hot dog, it can be considered a sandwich to some, but to others, I would say that it depends on where you put it. If you cut the hot dog horizontally and then you put it between, if you don't put it between a hot dog bun, you put it between two hamburger buns, you butterfly the hot dog, and then you put it down, and then you make it look like the sandwich. Because if you put it on a hot dog bun, it's not gonna have the same feeling as a true sandwich. So while I do feel like a hot dog is not a sandwich, you can have those variations, but I would absolutely believe that a hot dog on a hamburger bun is the ultimate sandwich. 100%.
Spatchcock your hot dog.
That's
Yes.
All right, yeah.
Ultimate sandwich. Okay.
That's like hot dog blasphemy.
That is.
It's a crossover. I love it.
Sauerkraut.
Never had sauerkraut.
What?
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right, so
Try it.
Our first game is called 4 Questions. So Dave is a connoisseur of archetypal 80s media, and so, in honor of our visiting professor, tonight's 4 questions will be about the show Knight Rider. Remember that Dave is not looking for the correct answer, but the best answer. Question number 1. Glenn A. Larson, the show's creator, as well as the creator of Battlestar Galactica and Magnum P.I., based Knight Rider on what? What is Knight Rider based on, Nate?
It is based on his brother Gary Larson's comic strip, The Far Side.
Fantastic comic. Great answer. Marie, what do you have?
It was a reoccurring nightmare from childhood. Many years of, sorry, Molly, many years of therapy. The reoccurring, it just, the writing was laid out for him. He dreamt it all before.
That is sad and horrifying. Steve, what do you have?
He was a big fan of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, obviously, and a big fan of the poem about Paul Revere, famous Knight Rider. And he's like, "Wow, my favorite thing about the poem is obviously Paul Revere's mullet. What can I do with that?" And that's kind of what became Knight Rider.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. So, business in the front, adventure in the back. Molly, what do you have?
Well, he had a car fetish. So he just wanted to really find out some way that he could get a car. And his biggest fantasy was that it could talk back to him while driving. So he really wanted to personify that. Hey, we all have our own things. Don't judge. And so that is where the idea came from. The leather jacket was an obvious go-to.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. And his dream was eventually fulfilled with the reboot of the Battlestar series. So, Dave, we have Nate with inspired by his brother Gary Larson. We have Marie with a recurring nightmare. Steve was a fan of Longfellow's Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And Molly with a car fetish. The answer was actually, it was inspired by the Lone Ranger and Hal from 2001, A Space Odyssey.
There you go.
And he also added a nod to his other series with the face of Kit and the strobing red lights at the eyes of the Cylon. All right. So, Dave, how would you like to score?
All right, so Nate is going to get an oversized belt buckle for the Far Side for the Far Side reference. That's about 200 points. So Nate gets that. Steve, remind me, what was your answer again?
Paul Revere's mullet.
Yes. Steve is also going to get an oversized belt buckle, just because any reference to Paul Revere is good in my book. Molly, what was yours?
Car fetish.
Car fetish.
She had a thing for cars.
So I'm gonna actually I'm gonna give you a modifier. So I'm gonna give you an alpha circuit, which is a deduction of 50 points for that response.
That's tough, yeah.
That's hard hitting.
Early season 1 Knight Rider had Kit. Every time he broke down, something would destroy his alpha circuits, which is where that came into play. So I'm gonna demerit that. Car fetishes are just strange.
Hey, no judge.
And Marie, what was yours again?
Reoccurring nightmare.
The reoccurring nightmare. So there was an episode where Michael Knight actually was suffering from delusions over the course of the episode, which actually turned into his coworker having fever dreams on Halloween. So I appreciated that response. So I'm actually going to give you a sleek leather jacket for that response. About 300 points on that one.
I got 2 jackets.
All right. Fever Dreams used to be the name I danced under. Ooh. Question number 2.
You're going to wake up in a cold sweat.
Where did star David Hasselhoff and the voice of Kit, William Daniels, first meet? Where did they first meet? Marie, what do you have?
It was at a con it was at a convention. Yeah, they were there.
You want to try
David
out some more letters after that prefix, or just conflagration, or
there's like PAX festivals and Comic-Con and all the things. They were at
a convention.
festival.
Yeah.
A convention. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the full word. And David Hasselhoff and the other guy were there
William
promoting
Daniels.
William Daniels. Yes, the two of them were there promoting other things. They met and it was like magic. They knew they were meant to work together at a convention.
Great answer. Steve, what do you have?
They both were at a bar. Two gentlemen trying to have a nice drink, hanging out, chilling. They ended up getting into an argument, which turned into a classic bar fight with the smashing the bottles over the head and throwing chairs and the bouncer intervening. And that's how they kind of understood each other on that kind of metaphysical level, was beating the shit out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, makes sense. A bar fight. Molly, what do you have?
They actually met at the dog park. So when you're bringing two actors together, you really want them to kind of form a relationship, get to know each other, feel comfortable. So when they're working together, you can feel that on screen. So they said, hey, I got a mini Doberman Pinscher. You have a Chihuahua. Let's go to the dog park and let them romp around. So that is where they met. And the dogs just got along just great. And they knew that they'd get along smashingly as well.
All right, so they proverbial, yeah, that was right.
Convention.
I said that right the first time. Basically, they sniffed each other's asses. Nate, what do you have?
Exactamundo.
I don't call him by his real name, Daniels, whatever. I call him Mr. Feeney because that's who he was on Boy Meets World.
Course.
And
of course.
So Mr. Feeney was attending Ben Savage's birthday party, and out walks the clown. It's actually David Hasselhoff in his full Baywatch gear, dressed as a clown with clown makeup and everything. They really connected because of Mr. Feeney's ability to make balloon animals. So they sent a letter back in time so that way they could start the show.
All right. So Nate, they met and hit it off well after the show started.
Yes.
Good answer. All right.
It's possible.
So, Dave, we have Marie with they met at a convention. We have Steve, they met at a bar fight. Molly, they met in a dog park. And Nate, they met well after the show started in the future. I hate to say it, but Nate's actually right. They met at the company Christmas party well after the show had already started.
That's really funny.
They never worked together at all during the series. So William Daniels would only he'd be in the studio for each episode, maybe an hour a week.
Yeah.
So
time travel.
Alan, why don't you put the quotes up? Which you won't see,
Thank
but
you, Alan.
the audience will.
So good.
Alan,
so good.
Dave, how would you like to score?
So I really liked every single one of those responses. Got a nice little chuckle out of me. I really appreciated them. So I'm gonna divvy it up. I'm gonna go. Marie, Molly, and Steve are all gonna get a tight red turtleneck.
Ooh, baby.
This is about 400 points each for the three of you guys. Fantastic
Nate,
job.
Molly, and Steve.
Marie, Steve, and Molly
Marie.
gonna get a tight red turtleneck. Nate, because time travel has come into play a lot on the Knight Rider Years podcast for one reason or another. Nate, I'm going to give you a glistening Trans Am for 500 points.
Whoa. Okay. I didn't know those were on the table.
Oh, they are now.
They are now, buddy. They are now.
That's huge.
That sounds like something you could buy, no questions asked, at the back of my massage parlor. All right. So I'll take a glistening Trans Am. Okay,
that's all you ever order.
Speaking of glistening Trans Ams, KITT, the iconic car in Knight Rider, stands for Knight Industries 2000. But that wasn't the original name of the car. In pre-production, it was called something else. What was the name of the car? Steve, what do you have?
It was still called KITT, but it stood for Keith Igloo, Tomorrow Tonsils. Tonsillitis. Sorry, Keith Igloo tomorrow with tonsillitis. Sorry, I gotta remember this. So Keith Igloo, of course, was did the sound direction for the show, and he was just kind of jotting down ideas, but he had just gotten done with some oral surgery, so he was still on some drugs. So what he wrote down was KITT, so for Keith Igloo, tomorrow tonsillitis, because that was just what his feverish brain was telling him to write. The producers then had to kind of figure out what else that could stand for, because it was too confusing for test audiences.
It was like a Marvel comic where they come up with a name and then desperately try to find the acronym
Shield,
to go
how can we
with
make
it.
this work?
You really want to name the group Pennsylvania? Okay. All right, so Molly, what do you have?
The original name for Kit was actually Eamon. Eamon was his name. It was William Daniels' son was just born. And he was really, really inspired and moved by the birth of his son. And so he was like, I'm naming this main character Carr after my boy. And that's what he did. But then when the rewrite happened and it came around and he was dealing with changing diapers and stuff, he decided to change it.
Yeah. It would also make when the car goes evil really conflicting. So I understand.
True.
Yeah, named him after his son. Nate, what do you have?
They named it Ka. K-A. And that was because Kool-Aid was a huge sponsor at the time. And every time the car ran through a wall, it would go, oh yeah! Kool-Aid eventually backed out, and Mr. Feeney didn't like that catchphrase, so they changed it to Kit.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense. Yeah. So Kool-Aid with a C. Marie, what do you have?
They just called it Knight Rider, and they realized that was pretty anticlimactic and confusing because it was also the name of the show. So they revamped and made it part of the acronymed title Kit.
Makes a lot of sense. So we have Steve with Keith Igloo tomorrow tonsillitis, Molly with Eamon, Nate with Ka, which it's that tested huge in Massachusetts. So
That's the
and Marie with Knight Rider. The actual answer was TAT. TATT, which stood for Trans Am 2000, which makes me feel like it was a missed opportunity to put out a sequel car and call it Tattoo.
Okay.
So
I was going to say tit for tat.
It'll be a little Tatooine, I guess. If it was a Fiat, it would be a Tatooine.
Tit for tat seems like a weird bartering system at a tattoo parlor. Tit for tat. I mean, you give me a tit, I'll give you a tat.
Tits get tatted.
Dave, how would you like to score?
Steve gets a Michael Knight perm for the excruciatingly long, convoluted response. Really appreciate it. Molly, it's 100. Yep. Molly is also going to get a Michael Knight perm because
Nice.
I did really appreciate that familial twist on the story. Marie is going to get an oversized belt buckle for the Knight Rider answer, and Nate, you are also going to get a Michael Knight perm for yours.
Oh yeah!
Kool-Aid man.
And
You love
oversized
that,
belt buckle
Nate.
was 200, right?
Correct.
This is fun because I'll have no idea who's in the lead because
No, I know.
I've already forgotten what the value is.
Honestly, I'm just imagining myself in a sleek red turtleneck with 2 leather jackets right now. Is all.
That sounds very cool.
So there you go. All right. Our final question for 4 questions. The show's iconic opening theme was composed by Stu Phillips. This part of the song, are you ready? What was that based on? That section was based on what? Molly, what's your answer?
It was based on Wilson Phillips, his sister, all of his sisters in the group, Wilson Phillips. They were just doing a little vocal warm-up on the day, and they were doing, and he was like, that is the jam. And so he went right to his synthesizer, busted it out. Next thing you know, great song.
Inspired on the sister sizer by his sisters. Nate, what do you have?
This was inspired by Well, he was going through the drive-thru at Dairy Queen and in his Trans Am, and he's like, "Could I order?" And they're like, "Wait, dun, 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 go!" And then he ordered his Blizzard. But that stuck with him. It was an earworm. It got in there, and he just drove up. In that amount of time from ordering to picking it up, he created that little portion, and then he picked up his Kool-Aid Blizzard.
The only type of worm you want in your Blizzard. Marie, what's your answer?
Good friend Stu here was a big fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber, specifically Phantom of the Opera, which could be considered a rock opera. There's quite some jammin' riffs in there. Heard a piece of it, felt inspired, and went off to write immediately. Andrew Lloyd Webber.
All right, so he was your angel of theme songs. Steve, what do you have?
All right, so our guy Stu, unfortunately, God volunteered to accompany Keith Igloo on his colonoscopy. He had just gotten his tonsillitis, got his tonsils out. This time he was going to colonoscopy. He composed this based on the feelings he felt seeing Keith Igloo walk out of that colonoscopy, still kind of sweating from the drugs. He composed that kind of in his brain, and that's we got to thank Keith Igloo for all of this.
All right, so that makes sense. Colonoscopy.
Somebody's going to drive you home.
That makes sense. We have Molly inspired by his sisters, Wilson Phillips. We have Nate with a DQ Blizzard earworm, Marie with a Andrew Lloyd Webber theme, and Steve with drove him home after a colonoscopy. All answers. The real answer...
Can't argue with that.
The real answer that it was based on Leo Delibes' ballet, Sylvia, and specifically the third act's Cortège de Bacchus.
Oh, that was the best third act.
Love a good Bacchus.
Dude, I love a good Bacchus. Right on.
So the original?
Yeah, I can hear that. That's nice.
That's my jam.
It's so
and
good, man.
the
It's so good.
original.
Yeah, just add a little. Yeah, I got
All
it.
right.
I got it. Feel that.
So, Dave, how would you like to score?
Oh boy, the colonoscopy is gonna get. I gotta give a 50-point demerit for the colonoscopy. So, Steve, you're gonna get an alpha circuit on that one.
No, I get it.
I feel your pain.
And if I could remember the other three responses, Nate will.
So, I'll read it back to you.
Yes.
We have Molly was inspired by his sisters, Wilson Phillips. Nate had a DQ Blizzard earworm. And Marie was Andrew Lloyd Webber's theme. It was inspired by.
Perfect. Okay, so Marie is going to get another perm, because gotta love the musical references in any capacity. Nate's going to get another perm, because I'm oddly curious about what a Kool-Aid Blizzard would taste like.
I am not.
Really interested to see what a Kool-Aid Blizzard is.
Oh,
It would taste like college and regret.
Ooh, boy. And Molly, because my wife is a huge Wilson Phillips fan, I'm going to give you a sleek leather jacket on that one for that response. So well done.
Nice.
All right.
Hey, Bob. Did you say
Yes.
college and regret, or did you say collagen regret?
Regret. That's honestly what I heard too.
Could go either
Both
way.
are accurate.
Okay.
Both
like
are. I
college
said
and regret.
college and regret, but frankly, it's a description for both. So yes.
All right, perfect.
All right. So our points are: I am in last place with 0 points. Next,
Whoa.
we have Steve with 650.
Okay.
Molly with 850. Nate with 1,000, and Marie is in the lead with 1,200 points.
Whoa.
So,
Okay.
well done. Join us for a conversation with Dave Ciampa, podcaster, actor, movie runtime enthusiast, when we return
gonna
to
quiz him.
Balderdash Academy. Go Dashers! For complete episodes and more, visit us at balderdashacademy.com.
It's time to sit back and reminisce about the wonders of 1980s television. Well, I mean, unless you're Coach Steve, then you're learning about 80s TV. Whether it's an action-adventure show with a talking car or one with a talking Anne, Dave Ciampa is the podcasting professor with a solid A+ coming your way. Check it all out on the next part of episode 17, only on Balderdash Academy.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You can find us on your favorite podcast service as Balderdash Academy.
Whew, that's a mouthful. That's what she said.
Go Dashers!